Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Safa Sultanov. I'm a business development associate over here at Rangle.io, and I'm joined by Tara Wilson, one of our client partners, over on the team to chat about Headless CMS. So yeah, Tara, let's jump right in. You want to maybe give us a little bit of a background about yourself and maybe a little bit of an intro into Wrangle and what we do for organizations?
Sure, sounds good. So thanks for joining us today. My name is Tara Wilson. I am a client partner at Wrangle. I've been in the industry for about 25 years now. Don't want to date myself, but that's where we are. Um, I have worked with a lot of organizations around digital transformation, specifically technology change. So my biggest lens, I guess, my biggest perspective is always that a lot of the tech folks kind of really get focused on what they're delivering, which is great. But we want to make sure that also the point of them delivering this amazing new product and service offering is adoption. We want people to be using it. So I tend to focus on how can we make sure that this is easy for people to consume, easy for people to adopt, that we're taking a look at all their processes that need to be updated and changed cross-functionally, and that we're kind of building buy-in as we go. Now I'll tell you a little bit about Wrangle. Wrangle is a decade-old company who has primarily focused on front-end development. So whether that be UX, UI, design systems, CMSs, for example, this has been kind of the Angular and React world that we play in. And through that, really what inspired me to come on board here is that Wrangle is not a regular consulting firm that comes in, does up a bunch of pretty presentations and gives you advice and guidance on how you should do things. They actually roll up their sleeves and work alongside you so that as we're developing a product together, your team is around for the whole thing. They understand what needs to happen in terms of maintaining, operating, and living and breathing this product life cycle, so that when we're finished with things, your team can handle the operational piece of it.
Amazing. Thanks so much for the intro, Tara. Let's jump into the CMS. Why use the CMS? How does it work? Give us the rundown, I guess.
Yeah. So if you are using a website for personal or business use, you should seriously consider a CMS. Basically, one of the things that it helps with is consistency. So you want to make sure that you've got the same kind of tonality, the same kind of voice going throughout your website. You want to make sure that it's consistent. Oftentimes you might be thinking about something and put that pen to paper, or virtually as it will, on web development. And you might be in a different mood that day. You might be using different words. You might have a different flow. So what you want to do with a CMS is it really helps you think about and plan the content that you want to have, the graphics, the icons, the style, and kind of think through what that's going to look like and what you want to publish. So it's kind of cataloging how you want to do things going forward.
Can you walk us a little bit through the publishing process in the CMS?
Yeah, absolutely. So really what you're always thinking about when you're doing anything with websites or publishing content is, what am I trying to say, right? What is it that I want people to know? So you want to make sure that you've got the right content out there, and you want to make sure that it's laid out well and it's readable to your audience. You always want to make sure that you're connecting with your audience. So that means you need to think about how you're organizing your content. You need to think about things like graphics that you're going to have in there, any kind of links that you're going to have in there, any kind of capabilities that you're going to have in there in terms of maybe you're doing something where someone's going to be providing feedback or ratings, that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that that's all laid out and well thought of beforehand. The other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is, if something is timed or time sensitive, that you're version controlling it. You may want to have a timed offer, for example. So you may want to make sure that that comes off on a particular date and time. And maybe you're not the kind of person who, just has that thing in your head. So you want to make sure that there's an automated function to some of that stuff. And of course, you're laying out this beautiful content. You're making sure that it's very useful to your end users. And that would go nowhere if people couldn't find it. So you want to make sure from an SEO and metadata perspective that you're really putting something out there that's searchable, that people will find. Finally, the last thing you want to think about, of course, is security. It's a foundation layer to kind of everything, but it's especially true if you're going to be storing any kind of personal data on there. You want to make sure that that's covered off.
Thank you so much. And as far as, I guess, high-level benefits of a CMS and common pain points that they solve for organization, would you be able to speak to that?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that I always think about is efficiency and productivity. So, I have a lot of experience in tech, and a lot of my developer friends will say, listen, if I'm going to have to do something more than once, I'm going to code it. I'm going to automate it, because they don't really want to waste their time doing repeat functions. So this is the same kind of concept. What this allows you to do is think about all of the content components that you're going to be putting together, so that when you're ready to put something new out there on the internet, and out there broadcasting it to your user groups, to your customers, to your clients, all of that, you can do that. There aren't additional roadblocks that you need to hit, right? This allows you to bring your IT teams, your brand teams, your marketing teams together to think about what is the appropriate messaging, what is the appropriate content that we want out there, imaging, styling, all that kind of good stuff. So that way, when you need to get that content out there, you're done. You just pull it together and you put that out there. So I can't say enough, like, of all of these benefits, really always I focus on the efficiency and productivity pieces. The rest, of course, are amazing tools as well. But the last thing I guess I would say, to just kind of close that loop, is analytics and data insights. So you want to make sure that you can pull that information out there, so that as you're assessing, is my website hitting the mark? Is this resonating with people? You've got actual data to back that up, rather than just gut feel.
And as far as if we're going to contextualize, I guess, the evolution of CMS or the evolution of technology within the CMS world, could you kind of paint that picture for us?
Oh, absolutely. This is kind of one of my favorite things, because I've got degrees in political science and international studies, as well as business. So I'm all about how to apply technology. Just the coding part of it, just the design part of it doesn't do it for me. It's all about, how do I apply that amazing technology to solve business problems? So if you go back to the late 1990s, which some of us were around for in the business/academic world for, that's when the internet really took off. So that became a little bit more of a norm, and it became more accessible to folks. So people were going there to look for information, as opposed to needing to go to a physical location to ask a human being for some of this stuff. So what happened with that was, people started understanding, hey, people are looking for stuff. How can I make it searchable? How can I connect with other audiences to get my information out there? From that, you saw a real rise in e-commerce. If you think about Amazon as the great example, Jeff Bezos was really just trying to find a way to do better book distribution. And that's how they ended up building this all out. It's a fascinating case study if you take a look at it from the beginning. But really what that allowed people to do is, as they were searching for things, when they decided to search for things, not just when the store was open, they were finding a lot of content around what they wanted, a lot of information around comparables, right? So instead of having to literally spend an afternoon trying to find something that you wanted by going to 10 different stores, it was a virtual search now, a heck of a lot easier, right? And on that, then in the late 2000s, you saw a little bit more social media integration pieces. So things around people providing feedback on different products, people rating different products. What did they think about this? And then that kind of led us back into the responsive design and optimization. Not only did they want to do it on their computers, they wanted to do it when they were out shopping, right? Oh, I remember that I need this. Oh, I better take a quick look at that because this is on sale. Is that the best price? Right? So a lot of that just started happening so quickly. So what we're seeing here is real consumer demand for information at their fingertips that is relevant, useful, timely, all of that kind of good stuff. So we keep seeing a little bit more personalization with every leap here. And the last couple here are very interesting, because AI and machine learning, you started seeing things like, oh, people who bought this also bought this. Oh, here's a reminder, you bought this 30 days ago. Are you out of that product now? So you really started seeing a lot more helpfulness from these organizations in order to sell you their products. Right? So I love that concept for it, because it does, like, I buy vitamins all the time. And so it's great to have those auto ship things, because yes, I am out of it and I don't need to think about it. I don't need to remind myself about that. However, that means that there's a lot more integration needed, so that businesses that I shop at can know me a little bit better. So we want to make sure that personalization keeps coming. As a consumer, I'm expecting more out of my shopping experience than just click shopping cart. I am expecting recommendations. I am expecting discounts. I am expecting to know when stuff's on sale, right? So these are the kinds of things that consumers are looking for. And really, and maybe this is a spoiler alert, having to do all of that manually just takes a lot of effort, right?
It's a good point. Yeah, the level of organization that's required and the demands of consumers these days is tough for organizations to keep up. So it's useful to have that bit of context. So we're talking about headless CMS. The opposite of that, I guess, is Headful CMS. Would you be able to kind of describe the difference between the two, where they apply, how they impact orgs?
Yeah. So kind of, following through from the history lesson there, the initial CMS was Headful. So it was pretty much an out-of-the-box experience for, maybe you're building your first website. What's the kind of content I'm going to need here? It's really that making sure that you're focused on that kind of presentation layer of, here is what my website needs to look like. Here's the page layout. Here are the different sections that I want. Here are the types of buttons that I'm going to be using. So it really kind of helps you get started in putting together a website and making sure that you had what you needed to get started in terms of templates from a marketing perspective, graphics perspective, that kind of stuff. If we shift over to headless, it does all the same things. However, it actually separates out some of the back end pieces from that presentation layer. So it's got a little bit more capability in terms of integrations with third-party systems. So as I was talking through some of that AI and analytics stuff, to allow for personalization, to allow you to understand where your customers are looking, what are they doing on your website. This allows you for a little bit more freedom to combine what you've got in a headless CMS with your internal tech stack. So whatever systems that you're using today, whatever content you want to be presenting on that website, and whatever analytics you want to bring back and kind of figure out and use to maximize your website.
And I guess if we were to dive into Headful CMS use cases, in what kind of scenarios would they be more useful versus headless?
So I like to say that it's a good starter solution, Headful, because it really gets you started. It's got a good out-of-box experience. It really helps you understand, okay, here's some basic layouts, some templates that I can use. It does a lot of that preliminary thinking for you in terms of getting you streamlined, getting you a nice look and feel, and getting you started with things. I think from that perspective, what it doesn't offer is all of the kind of bells and whistles on the personalization side. So if you're a new organization getting started, if this is something that you're just beginning to do, starting your own business, I may recommend something like that, a Headful solution.
And if we were to speak about a Headful solution between startups and enterprise, and later videos in this series, we're going to dive in a little bit more deeper into applying the use cases for startups and enterprise and with the relevant case studies. But just for right now, if you could give us like a broad level distinction between enterprise and startup use.
Yeah. So, startups are lean, mean, product machines, right? So they've got a small budget. They've usually got a small headcount. So they don't necessarily have a lot of folks twiddling their thumbs, looking for work to do. So I would say, honestly, from a startup standpoint, a Headful solution offers that great initial starting point where potentially they don't maybe have too many people in marketing or brand to be able to spend a lot of time on this. So this is a good way to, again, streamline what things look like and get that presence out there, right? They're busy focused on their core business, building out that core business of getting that seed money, getting to that next round, making sure they've got a good client base, potentially changing their product offering, right? So thinking about how do I get this stuff on the website isn't really where their heads are usually at, typically. So I would say that on the startup space. On the enterprise space, I would say if this is something that they're newly doing in terms of putting in a content management system, oftentimes, from a Headful perspective, it's pretty cost effective for the initial investment. So if right now a lot of things are happening manually, there might be a lot of internal discussions and collaborations around updating a website, updating a page, updating font, design, that kind of stuff. So what this will allow folks to do is come together and actually set that tone in the CMS and then kind of roll it out. Give them an understanding of how they're kind of collaborating before anything gets published. So it's a good kind of place to get their feet wet in that. It also helps streamline, again, some of those presentation layers. So it will really help them kind of understand, okay, based on potentially different lines of business that they might need to incorporate, different product offerings and service offerings, it will still have a consistent look and feel for the client, utilizing a CMS.
And for Headless CMS?
For Headless CMS, you get all of those benefits plus that customization part. So what I would say is this is almost like the standard evolution since traditional CMSs came out there from a Headful perspective. So this allows a lot more scalability. This allows a lot more integrations with third parties. I know we've done a lot of work with airlines, for example. So one of the things that this allows you to do is use some more legacy systems to present that content into your website. That can be a challenge for many older, more mature industries. So things like banking, things like airlines, where you've got all of this legacy systems with content that you might want to present to your clients. It's really hard to build those consistent, stable integrations to pull that stuff through. But utilizing APIs with Headless CMSs makes it a little bit more robust and a little bit more manageable. So also a little bit more scalable when you want to make some changes to things, when you might want to offer different, seat sales, for example, different service offerings, again, timed. This really helps with that time to market, time to change the content on the website so that you don't have roadblocks that you're jumping through. You can build those integrations and they'll just be accessible to you and you can use them as needed.
So let's say me and my team are sold on the CMS and now we're going to go shopping for a CMS. What's kind of the selection criteria and how should we organize our thoughts as we assess different CMS solutions?
So always think about the end in mind. How do you want to work? If you currently have a website, you need to think about, is this the way we want to work in the future? Do I want to find a tool set that will fit my process? Or do I realize that maybe there are some efficiency gains that I could be utilizing in a new tool set? So I would think about those business goals and objectives, right? Am I getting my content out in a timely manner? Do I need it to be faster? Am I limited by video size, by image size? Am I limited by number of pages that I have? Think about your ideal state, and what you want to do is build your solution for that. So from a business perspective, you want to think through those goals and objectives, obviously your budget, all the resources that need to access the CMS, how are they going to work together? What kind of access do they need? That kind of stuff. You want to think about operational considerations, features and functional requirements, of course, but obviously you want to think through the design and customization pieces. Is there more you want to be doing with this? Is my team willing to train on this? How much training is it going to take? Is this going to be a heavy lift? How much time is it going to take me to implement if this is a lot of training, right? So you have to think through those kinds of things. And then from the technology side, how is this going to be supported, right? Are you going to get a SaaS solution that the vendor supports entirely so you don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff? You just have SLAs that they need to hit? Or how is that going to work? Right? If you have a lot of legacy systems that you need to connect with, that may or may not work. They may or may not support some of the things that you want to connect to. So I would definitely take some investigation time and look at that.
A lot of things to consider. If only there was an organization that can help other organizations think through these problems. Now, for the sake of speaking about trade-offs between Headful and Headless, what are the things that orgs would be losing out on, and what are the things that they would be gaining? Is there maybe a key trade-off that you see in organizations really struggle over? Yeah, if you could speak to that.
Yeah, so I would say really think about how much flexibility you want. Because the beauty of a Headful solution is it gets you started, it has templates, it has frameworks, it gives you a process to publishing, basically, right? It's more like it's a catalog. You can choose this stuff. This is what you're going to do. You have certain capabilities and that's it. From a Headless perspective, you have a little bit more flexibility. So if you have different types of product offerings, if you have different types of content that you want to be putting out there regularly, it's definitely a better way to go because it allows you more flexibility and more templates, more frameworks to be able to work within. So I would say that. And the other part of it too is, can't stress enough, that flexibility and personalization. If that little history lesson has taught us anything, it's that personalization is here to stay. People are going to be expecting more and more of it. So I would almost say Headful is a great solution for people who just want to get started in the CMS space, but Headless is a better solution for people who need that flexibility and are comfortable working in a CMS space and figuring out their needs as they go and building and scaling their web solutions.
And where does Wrangle fit in all of this? How does Wrangle help organizations go through this process and go through the selection criteria?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So if you take a look at the rest of our website, we have a ton of case studies on what we've done in the CMS space, how we've helped clients, what customers have said about their experience with us. But we've also got a lot of content there in terms of breaking some of this down a little bit further from a technology perspective, from an organizational perspective. So really a little bit more of a guidebook on how to choose a CMS and what to do. So I'll say that. So our website is a good resource for what to do, how to do it, that kind of thing. I would also say that what I said at the beginning, we work directly with our clients to do things from assessing what CMS they should be using, helping them build out different process updates that need to happen, making sure we've got metrics built out so that we know, are we doing a good job with our websites? Is there something that we're missing? Making sure that we've covered off all the content pieces that need to be in there. Like I said, one of the things that I really love is starting off that initial discovery with a client to see all the stakeholders, make sure that they're having an opportunity to ask those questions and making sure that we're starting off on the right foot. Because I always say, if we're putting in a new product, if we're building this beautiful plan, but we're a degree off, that's the difference between hitting Australia or hitting Africa at the end goal. So you want to make sure that you've got an idea of the direction you need to be in so that when we set sail, we're all on the ship together and we all know the destination.
That is a lovely analogy to end things off with.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. Well, we're going to have a link to the presentation below the video here. And then the next 2 episodes in the series, we're going to be talking about the use cases specifically for enterprise and startups with a few case studies there. But thank you so much, Tara, for joining us and for giving us the rundown about Headless CMS.
Thank you, and stay tuned.